You return to a land he once ruled, a place carved by frost, steel, and legend. Kievan Rus still stands, but it is no longer the land you remember. Rurik is dead. The ruler who forged unity is gone, and from the silence he left behind, new leaders emerge. Across Kievan Rus, banners rise once more. Armies march through frozen fields. Strongholds are fortified. Palaces demand loyalty. Markets filled with resources taken. You are one of these leaders. You march across contested lands. You shape alliances and rivalries. Every action reshapes the realm. Your deed cards define what you claim. Your agenda cards reveal what you pursue. Resources flow through your hands. Influence spreads across regions. At the heart of Kiev, the legacy of Rurik still stands. Stone, blade, and the burden of rule. But beyond the cities, beyond the walls of power, another force awakens. Myths walk once more. At the heart of fables bend fate. In myths and fables, legend enters the game, and reason retreats. This is Rurik, 2nd edition. After the successful collaboration between Fantasia Games and Stan Kordonskiy on Endless Winter, we return to where it all began, with the 2nd edition of Rurik. Refined, darker, more unforgiving. The North awakens. Rurik returns. Now on GameFound.
Hello, Stan. Oh my. Maybe we gonna have again a little issue. Yeah. Hello, people. We are here. I'm Missy from Fantasia Games. We are here with Stan, and we have maybe some. It's my bad, Stan. It's my bad. Don't look for anything. It's. Yeah. It's just. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I can hear you. Let's hope people can hear you
Yeah, in the
also loud.
comments. Let us know in the comments if you can guys see us and hear us okay.
Yeah. Hello. How are you, Stan?
I'm good, Mishi. It's good to see you. I see we got a few people in the chat there. So if anybody's got questions, let us know. Also, you guys can let us know if you can see us and hear us okay. We're here to chat about Rurik 2nd edition.
Yeah.
And talk to you about that. I'm Stan Kordonskiy. I'm the designer of Rurik, 1st edition, the Stone and Blade expansion, and also of the 2nd edition rework. And Mishi did a lot of development in that as well. So we're both here to answer your questions.
Yep. How is everything, Stan? I see you a few days ago playing with Dice Tower. Nice time there. And congrats to Chris that do a pretty good job with the game and all the rest of,
really good
of
job.
the team.
Like 31. I think he scored 31 points, which is a lot. But also that's possible in the new edition. There's a bit more points. So in the old edition, I think like 20 or 22 would have been the most.
Yeah.
Stone and Blade maybe went up to like 25, 26, something like that. Now I think you can go over 30 if you are really playing well. But also, Tom,
if you do a good game, I think 30 to 35 is more
That's a
than
lot. Yeah,
yeah,
I would say like I would usually try to get at least like in the 20s. Like if I'm in the 20s, I know I'm in the running to
yeah,
win.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's possible. So let's take our first question here, Fantasia. Um, what's the origin core behind Rurik and how was the vision evolved in the second edition? So the original idea was always to make a kind of game in that setting of Kiev and Rus to use that history. Now there's a lot more context these days because back in oh geez, I don't know. I think I started designing it in 2017. The first one came out in 2019, so it was a different world back then. Now it's a little bit different. What's going on in Ukraine and that part of the world? Like the world changed a lot in the last 10 years since I designed this game. But I always wanted to just use that setting of Slavic history and culture. I thought it was a very untapped potential for a setting. There's lots of games about Western Europe, games about Japan, medieval Japan, games about, maybe ancient like Persian Empire, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. It's very Eurocentric. Mediterranean is really popular. Not so much Eastern Europe. So I wanted to make a setting in there. I'm from, Ukraine, so I always wanted to use that setting. And then almost together with that idea, then I came up with the mechanic as well. So, um, that auction programming. So as far how it changed and evolved, I think in retrospect, the game was always a historical fantasy. It was never meant to be a textbook on history. But I did hope that people who play the game, they'll be like, "Ooh, what really happened? I'm gonna look it up." Um, so for the second edition, I thought we'd punch up the fantasy part of it by introducing a bunch of mythical creatures, just to remind people, hey, this is a fictional game. Um, Sorry, I just had like a message pop up. So then, but we didn't really. Everyone was really happy on the team with the original auction programming mechanic. So that part of it didn't really change. We reworked. Mishi worked on that a lot, like working in like the buildings and the expansion kind of becoming sort of oaths in
Yeah.
the game, and so that we could have some of the things that were in Stone and Blade became the core game. Like we added the warfare track in Stone and Blade, and we added more buildings, and then in the reworking, sort of those extra buildings became oaths, just so it's easier to differentiate and also to give player access to more actions through this scheme mechanic. So that was it's a positive thing because I feel like some of those we discussed this before we started working on second edition, like what was in the Stone and Blade that I wish was in the original game. And I was right away like, okay, the warfare track you need it because it was too weak otherwise, the warfare mechanic. And then really needed not really needed, but extra buildings were really nice, like just make them base. So that's kind of like the evolution of it. So adding the mythical creatures, um, introducing some Stone and Blade components as an integral part of the main game. So that was that's what I would say. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Nishi, from your standpoint.
Yeah, for me, is one of the things that we push during the development is the possibility to do more deeds and and elevate a bit the deeds during the game. This is one of the main reason because we go shorter in one round. That is other that the topics that are there, because you now have more possibilities to do more things in a shortened amount of time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think the main changes are there, and also it's good that we have the possibility to have the more successful things on Stoneblade just in the core game. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. So we have a new question is how did you come up with the core auction programming mechanic of Rurik?
Yeah, I'm
So yeah,
curious about that. I'm
yeah,
really
no, I'm really
curious.
proud. I'm really proud of that one. Probably the only other things that I'm as proud is the deck building worker placement, but for Wendless Winter. But with that one, it just so happened that several other companies had that idea together, and so it sort of became like normal now. Like deck building worker placement just became a genre, just accidentally. But auction programming really isn't a thing outside of like Rurik. I mean, there are games that are sort of similar, superficially similar, but I'm a big, like I believe there's nothing really wrong with, excuse me, reusing mechanics in board games. We have deck building, we have worker placement, we have action selection, we have drafting, we have all these wonderful things. Then I always try to combine them in new ways. And so that was my take on like what can I combine in an interesting way. I always like auctions. Some of my favorite games, like Amun Ra, like um, Modern Art, some of the other games, they feature bidding heavily. I find it really satisfying to like outbid someone for just like one coin or like make someone bid too much on something they wanted and then like, oh man, I got it, but it's too expensive. I think that's a great mechanic for a live game where you play with other human beings. You can like actually see and interact. There's a little bit of like poker going on where you're like bluffing. Ooh, how much am I going to bid? So that was great. Love auctions. They're hard to do in the Euro game because auctions can devolve into like just like a fun kind of like crazy fun kind of party game. I'm like, okay, so what do I use auction for? Well, what's really Euro? We programming your turn. Also, very tense situation because when you programming the entire round, let's say, that can be really intense because it's like, oh my god, if I make a mistake, something happens. My whole round could be thrown off, right? So combining those two, I thought made for like a really good recipe. So on one hand, we have a very Euro-y I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Oh, no, wait. No, I'm going to do this. There you are. And then you have, oh, man, yeah, you think you're going to do this, but actually, I'm going to get you a lesser action, huh? Oh, you thought you had me. Actually, I was going to do that. That's the whole idea. It just works. It worked. Experimentation. We were experimenting during playtesting almost right away. Like the game is super rough in the beginning. Obviously, there's all kinds of problems with it. The balance is off whatever elements missing, unnecessary elements present, list goes on. But that part always stood. No one ever was like, I don't like, this is like what is this? People were like, oh yeah, I love doing this. Matter of fact, a couple of people were like, oh, you should just make that a game. All I want to do is just that, right? Like just make that entire game just a small box game, like 15 minutes of this. So yeah, that's just weird idea brainstorming like to answer that question like how did it happen just looking for things to combining my two things that I like and it just happened to work. Happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Uh, I really think half of the round is just the programming, the auction programming, because then you can strategize with whatever the scheme you're gonna do, but you need to do your work on this kind of command board. So yeah, it's great, and also I think is one of the that kind of mechanics that right now is a signature. I don't. I get the people do deck building and worker placement, but I don't know about action programming because it's
Right.
yeah, it have the signature of Stan. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. It's not like, oh, it's mine. Like I recognize that I just combined two things that existed. Like it's like a recipe, right? Like, oh, I added like two ingredients to this dish and it tastes great, but I didn't invent the ingredients. So totally fine with it. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm proud of it. All right, so next question, let's do that. What kind of player feedback from the first edition had the biggest impact on shaping the second edition? So I think you already talked about deeds. So deeds, definitely people were like, well, the deed is there, and it's great, but it's difficult to do. And it's very tempting to just ignore it because like it seems like it's detracting from other things I want to do. Like I want to rule and I want my goods to fill my boat. Like for those unfamiliar with the first edition, there was like a boat. And to get more income, you had to put goods on the boat, and then that gave you income, which you want. But if you spent it, you got the deeds. So it was a more of a. I'm a fan of this personally, like hard choices, right? It just made another hard choice, but feedback was like not everybody appreciated it as much as me. People thought like there were enough tough choices in the game already. They didn't need like another tough choice. So deeds were reworked. They're a lot easier to do. Your income comes more freely. You have more access to money. Matter of fact, if you watch our live stream with the Dice Tower, which I recommend you do, you'll see Tom Vassell at some point he had like a stack of coins. It was like this tall, right? Like that would all be almost impossible in the first edition because like if all you do is collect coins, maybe you could do it, but then you'd have like 3 points at the end of the game. Um, so that's good, right? Like there's more combos, there's more engine building in that game now. So that was, from the standpoint of mechanics, I think that was the biggest thing, and also the combat because people kind of felt there wasn't enough like swing. We put a little more swing in a combat deck now, where as an attacker you might actually like get hurt a little. There's a little bit of a chance that you get hurt a little more. Like it used to be very difficult as an attacker to have any kind of negative impact, and it undercut the tension of combat. Raise it up just a tiny bit. It's not super. It's not like super obvious. You're not gonna have like epic failure or anything like that. But that was a good thing. It's just a little tweak. Then of course there were a lot of visual improvements done. It's always easier when the game's out for years and thousands of I don't know how many thousands of plays it had. Yeah, maybe like there were some component issues, like some things were too small, some things. So now we got like much better components in this one as far as just usability. Like I love the first edition look. I love the first edition aesthetic, but there was always an issue with the numbers being hard to see when you put the coins, or you put the coins under the pieces and then you couldn't see that, and then the pieces themselves would cover up the action. Now it's gone, so it's a lot more user friendly. That's what I can just off the top of my head to answer that question. Mishi, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think in the first edition, the struggle is just how how much you can hold the resources until you have enough to score the track. Uh, right now is the how you manage every turn to have the better. I see the play with Tom with a lot of coins, and we both know that in experienced player, that amount of coins means a lot in the auction programming, because you can do a lot of power moves. So it's more about how to push the abundancy sometimes. And yeah, you need to do your engine work since the start of the game. This is the main difference for me.
Yeah, no, that's well put. Yeah, I think that taking the scoring the goods was another thing. I'm glad you reminded me because we used to say like, well, how many goods are you holding? And that was like another thing that like, okay, keeping the goods scores that column and gives you access to more money. Spending the goods scores deeds, giving you access to more actions. So again, it's just balancing the scales. But yeah, good point. Taking that out, replacing it with merit scoring made the game a little more um, accessible, I should say. Like if you're a first time player or not super experienced, you find it a little easier because it's like, okay, I get goods, I spend goods. You don't have to be like, well, I get goods, but then I have to make this like hard decision, right? What I do with them. All right, let's take the next question here. What balance adjustment is the most difficult to fine tune during development, either in a first or second edition? Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I mean, it's a very interconnected system. So if you pull on one thing, then the rest can unravel, right? Like, for example, okay, so deciding you collect more than one good from the same region in the same round, right? Like, why is it that we decided that it's one good and then it's gone for the rest of the round? That was just the experimentation. That was because, we tried, oh, what if it's like just multiple times you can collect it? Or what if like we put two goods there for like a 4-player game, but one good for a 2-player game? Um, how many regions should a player have access to in a 2 versus 3 versus 4? This is balancing questions. How many goods should a deed cost? The amount of points and an action that it gives. That's a great example that we had the formula in the first edition. It worked in that context, but for the second edition, we actually made it easier to make deeds. So we actually dropped the number of goods and or like things you have to accomplish to complete it. Rebalancing it essentially. What are the odds of attacker losing a unit versus a defender losing a unit? If you first one, it was a little heavy on helping the attacker because it's very hard to lose. Thinking you could only ever lose one unit,
Yeah.
you were guaranteed to kill an enemy. Now it's, well, you can lose 2 units and they might only lose one, or you might lose it and they might not. So it just became a little more. You're just shifting things slightly, but overall, we try to maintain balance of the original because it was so well fine-tuned. Like which actions are in which column basically didn't change. Like we still have the same things in the same, and that was how that was balanced. I just experimented because I couldn't mathematically figure this out. Also, like there was no chat GPT or anything like that in 2017. Hard to believe, right? That was only 9 years ago, but none of those things existed. I'm not math, smart enough to write like a program to help me. So I just had like 20 different boards that I printed on my home printer that had like, well, this one has 3 hammers, and this one has 2 hammers, and this one has 1 hammer, and just I just kept playing with different ones until we found something that felt good. Also, I don't want to sound like I did it all by myself because I had Kirk did a lot of development in there, the original publisher. I think John Brieger was the other developer on that one. So shout out to John. He did a lot of work in that, I think. And then Kirk had other people, like he would meet with his own playtesters and playtest because he's in Madison, which is about an hour and a half from where I live in Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee doing my playtester. So playtester feedback, developer feedback, publisher playing the game, me playing the game was very small team. Like he's he was a one-man publisher. I'm an indie designer, a couple extra people hired to help us out, and that's how we balanced it out. So it's like the question is, what's the most difficult to fine tune? Probably the strategy board. That is like, if you mess that up, right, like that drives the whole game. Like if we felt like one column was too dominant, then we had to do something about it because then everyone just fights for that column. Or if one column is too weak, and we see like, hey, look, no one took this action. That's a problem. We got to juice it. So we kept, like you start here, and then you're like this, and then you're like slowly, and then finally you feel like you hear with actions, and then you're like, okay, let's just not touch this house of cards so it doesn't fall apart. We got this all where all columns are good, and people might want all columns at all times. So that's what you want. So that was the hardest thing to nail, but once it's nailed, like I said, that was basically untouched in the second edition. All right. What is your favorite leader in the game? Ooh, and okay, and what makes the character to stand out to you? Hmm, that's a wonderful question. Um, it's a tough one. So depends on what it depends on what kind of game I want to play. I would say that because if I want to play a more aggressive fighting game, I probably take Boris just because he has like an attack power. Or if I want to play a more of a game where I try to manage my resources better and build, I would do Mstislav. because he can build and or tax always as if you have majority in that region, which saves you a ton of action. I would say it's kind of between those two, depending on what mood I'm in. But you know, if I want to play a little more confrontational, I would do. But they're all really good because they all sort of have they all sort of have their own flavor, and you can tune your game up to the leader that you play with. Or you don't really have to. You can say like, well, okay, I have this guy, but just because I have Boris doesn't mean I can't like build a really efficient resource machine. It's just I can do both things. So yeah, for me, I would say either Boris and Mstislav. What about you, Mishi? What did you like?
Yeah, I think the perfect one for me is Mrs. Love, just because yes, it's very good to manage building and taxing, but also give you the opportunity to take just one minor action with a one and go after your enemies and steal things. So yeah, that kind of opportunities during the game is one of the most that I enjoy. So yeah, I really like that minor ability.
Yeah, that's great. Um, all right, let's take this next question here. All right, do you envision the world of Rurik expanding further in the future? If so, what directions, possibilities do you imagine for such an expansion could explore? I'll be totally honest. I haven't given it much thought. Like this edition is going to be huge as far as amount of content you get. Like there is a lot. Like if you get everything that comes with this, there is a ton. Just to play with every like hero and every monster would take I don't know how many gameplay. If somebody's good with math, you can math it out and, and put it in the comments. But it'll be a lot. Like yeah, so no, I haven't given it a thought at all. Like, I think there is a ton here. I would have to look at player feedback. Most commonly, what people say, it's like, well, what about fifth player? Somebody even said like fifth and sixth player. If you watch the Dice Tower, like, it's really good length for like three and four. Like, we did it in 90 minutes flat with three on Dice Tower, and these guys never played this game before. I mean, Tom saw the first edition like when it came out in 2019 or whatever. Like he doesn't remember obviously that much about it because he plays so many games. I think a Chris probably did. I think Joey. Anyway, so these guys are not like Rurik players, right? And they did it in 90 minutes. The problem is when you expand it to this big of a player count, I don't think that's going to be a very fun game. So I don't think that's like a good, that's like a good thing to expand the game to. But who knows? Like we'll see. If the world demands a fifth player, fine. As far as like what else it could be applied to, I mean the systems can be applied to anything, right? But I like this system for this setting. It sort of also makes logical choice. So the idea was always like this. So the strongest piece gets the best action, but the lowest power piece goes first. And the idea is that you're sort of like um, sending out orders, and orders that are easy and simple and quick. They get there fast, and people do them fast. Like let's say you tell them, hey, just go over here, get this thing, and bring it back to me. Versus you telling them like, okay, here's this huge battle plan. I want you to do all these steps, and you're gonna need to gather so blah 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 blah. So the idea is that in real world, the more complicated a thing you do, it gets you more results, but it takes longer to happen. It just makes sense in that time period and in that place where everything is by mouth or by like a written letter, that would be, with their type of communications and logistics, it would make sense. I don't really know what else I would apply this to. Like, it doesn't really work in sci-fi context that well because, like, well, why is the highest piece goes last? You could stretch it, but I would say just really happy with how this one is turning out. I would love for people to get it in their hands, play it, and then wait a year or so, just see all the feedback, see what people think, just go with that. Sometimes that sparks my creativity. Like I was also really happy with the first one because after the first one came out, I wasn't like immediately like, "Ooh, we need monsters. We need," like I was just like, "No, this is great." And as time went on and more people chimed in. So if you back this game or you get this game down the road, be active. Go on BGG, leave comments, leave your ideas. Go on social media. Like let Fantasia know, let me know. Like, hey, I love this. Hey, this would be cool. It's fine. Even sometimes like we don't answer every single comment and stuff like that, but it's good. It all collects people's like opinions and people's moods and ideas, and it's good. It's something to get us thinking creatively. All right. Oh, meow. Yep, I heard the cat too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have two cats as well, and one of them was
yeah.
jumping on the laptop earlier, trying to be in the stream instead of me. So I got her off the table, and then she got offended and left. That's okay.
Yeah,
She might
this
come back.
this one is very noisy. So I want to add about expanding the world of Rurik, that people don't know too much about the monsters, but I really think the main idea that you get with that expansion about monster is gonna change the game a lot, because every monster make you feel different, the map, the thing that you need to do to get more points or don't be punished. So yeah, I really think people gonna see that the world of Relic is already expanded with this new second edition.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. So the next question here I got: have you ever considered exploring the universe of Rurik in a completely different game title? Oh, that's a good question. So it's a little different. So it's not like it's like so the universe of this like Slavic. It's funny. I just had the idea now. Like I saw this question, and you know what I thought? Co-op. Like, what about instead of competing, we go on this co-op adventure together? So now, as we programming, maybe we're trying to like help each other instead of like we're like, oh, I'm gonna go here and do the thing, so then you can go here and do your thing because we have like this quest. Who knows? Maybe we're saving Kiev and Rus from an invasion, or maybe it's like more fantastical. Maybe there's like a big bad, like a boss battler that we have to like get to the boss and fight him. I've been doing more of this like lately, working on games where you like doing a co-op thing. So to answer that question, just I haven't thought about it at all, I swear, but I think because maybe like other stuff I was working on is like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this universe, but co-op, maybe even still auction programming, maybe slightly different. But yeah, what do you think about the co-op, Mishi? Would that be fun, you think?
Yeah, yeah, I really think it, pushing the auction selection, the auction programming to a co-op version it will be pretty interesting. So yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. The point. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like a run in the gauntlet of monsters getting to the boss would be like one way, another way just like up epic dungeon crawl when you're just going around the map or a board. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, it's funny. They say they had the same idea about the co-op. Hey, co-ops are fun. It just biggest thing with co-op I find is just the side note is how to take out the quarterbacking. And over the years, I found a few different ways in which this could be done, and I've seen a few ways in which other games did it, but like I've got a couple of my own that I want to apply. Like I said, might be something soonish that hopefully next year, year after, like from a different company, different realm, but a game like that where you like co-oping, but without someone being able to like tell you what to do. So yeah, that's always fun. Having like a good tense co-op where you can't control what other players do is always better, where everyone's got their own agency. All right, so let's see what else. So, Mishi, just can you remind me how much time do we have on this stream? Did we schedule?
yeah. We have right now like I don't know,
Like how
half an
much time
hour.
we have left? So,
Yeah,
you know, we,
we have 36 minutes, I think. We can
Okay.
go for a few
Yeah,
question
yeah, we're gonna
more.
do a couple more. Yeah, can
Yeah.
do a couple more questions here. All right. All right. One final question here. What would you like to say? Not final. Just from Fantasia here. What would you like to say to those who already own the first edition, as well as to players discovering Rurik for the first time? Okay. So let's separate the two. So if you already own the first edition, this doesn't like take away from that game in any way, but it does add a lot. So I know it's a hard choice for people. Well, for some people, it's a hard choice. Like I already have this game, it's really great. Maybe I even have the expansions for it. Do I really jump into it? Really take a hard look at the monsters. If you like, it's worth it. Because if this is something you're gonna use, it doesn't you might be able to make it work with the first edition, but you have to house rule a bunch of stuff because there's no oaths. The deeds are way harder to do. The income, again, we were talking about that earlier. You either spend the goods or you keep the goods, and that's really going to interfere with how easy these monsters. Because some monsters are very specific, like they want you to do deeds, or like they work with resource management. Some are more straightforward, where you just like item that's not as maybe different and you could house rule it, but I would say like that's your biggest decision, is that. Also look at the things about the first edition maybe you found to be like too tight, like, oh, resources were too tight, too hard to do deeds. Well, then this one fixes that, right? And you do have two complete games, really. I mean, there's nothing to stop you from playing either or both. Matter of fact, and then you can make your social media comparison, like, whoa, we just played them back to back and this is what we think. So it's fun. Okay, for the first time, you know this is a no-brainer because the first edition's out of print. You can't get it, or if you do, it's like sky high on secondary market. I don't know, $300+ for a used copy. I've seen all kinds of crazy things because out of print games, their prices are not they're not, they're just supply and demand. Like there's no games, here's one, I want $1,000 for it, whatever crazy thing. So this is like a great value. Honestly, what you get is insane for the what you pledge for the campaign. Just jump on board, get as much as you want, and I think you'll be happy. So I would say, like, don't miss it though. Like first campaign, people for years asked about the game. Then, like, that's probably the most asked game I get. Like, well, what about Rurik? Where can I get Rurik? I'm like, I'm sorry, it was a small publisher. They did two runs. They did the original run and they did another with the expansion. Whoever backed it, and then it was sold out very fast, and then people missed out. So don't miss out. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen. Like obviously Fantasia is really good at supporting games and keep it going, but just why take the chance? Just if you like something, just get it, and um I think you'll be very happy with it either way. Okay. All right, let's take another question here. Good evening. I'm a French player and I backed Legendary Edition. I'd like to know if any attention would be paid to single player mode. Thank you. Oh, okay. So, the original had a solo mode,
Yeah.
which I think, let's say John Rieger had a lot designing that. I didn't do that much. I did play testing on it and some feedback and things like that. So I don't know too much about it, Nishi. Can you shed
Yeah.
any light on this? Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
For people who knows the first edition, they know that the automa, or the word
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what you can use, uh, compete very well. Is just like another player. So we want to keep this spirit. This is just the same as the action programming. So if anyone knows the 1.5 of the solo that is published in BGG, before, yeah, after Stone and Blade, this is our foundation for um, uh, the new solo game. So we focusing on those one, and at the start, when we start to develop the new solo game, we see that the old solo game have three modes of thinking. It's just aggressive, or push for resources, or for buildings during the game. And this is represented with three columns. So in this new edition, we have three columns perfectly put it in the player boards. So we start thinking about that, and we try to add some of the other things in the game, like different rebels, like the monsters, because the monsters and fables is gonna be pretty good for solo players.
Yeah.
So we want to integrate everything in this core system. The only thing that we can try to don't have in the new solo mode is don't abuse the long maintenance, and trying to
Mhm.
keep an eye on the bot system. So we want to have a more elegant kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And we have the very good opportunity, because we have a lot of bonus in our player board. So we designed the solo player board, that every time the solo do things, is getting things from the table, moving, doing extra movement and everything. So right now feels pretty natural, and I think in 5 or 6 days, we're gonna have an update showing the solo mode, how it works, the new board from solo mode, and everything. So if you know the old one, it's gonna be based on the same, but adapted to this new version.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. This is a question of personal taste. I always like elegant, simple solo. Like me, if I play solo, I want to spend minimum time on, on maintaining AI. Some people don't agree with that. There are some players, they want like a super complicated, like I know there are some, automas where it take you like a good couple minutes to figure out what they do. People like the meatiness of it. It's like another thing that they're doing. It's just a question of personal preference. Like I said, I didn't actually design the original Rurik's Atoma, but I liked it. I'm glad to hear that this one kind of maintaining that. I did like design Atoma for Nova Roma, for example. So
Yeah.
you can see how that works. Like it's very simple. It's like you do a thing, one thing for them, it sort of sets up a puzzle for you, and then you're trying to solve this puzzle, right? That's my approach to things. It's not everyone's cup of tea. So I just want to say one more thing. I think unless we get another question, we can
Yeah.
probably wrap up after this. But I did remember, because so the question before the previous question was like another thing I can say to those people, and this is both first and second edition, right? So I can see it coming up on the campaign on GameFound on the comments, as well as other places. They're saying, actually, also, I would say a YouTuber, Alex
Yeah.
Board Game,
Boring
he
Co.
said that. He's like, well, they took out a round. Now it's only 3 rounds. And they're bringing it up, not necessarily as negative, but people are like, well, what about this round? What about this round? This is what I want to say. Try to think of it in terms of the actions you take, uh, not in terms of rounds, because a round is just it's an abstract thing. Like what's a round? Whatever I say it is. A round could be one action. A round can be 100 actions, right? So how many actions do you do in a round? In the old Rurik, you did not have access to actions via your player board, which now you do because you have that engine building. You had access to actions from deeds, but like I said before, they were not very easy to do, or you didn't get as many of them. Um, so you have more opportunities to get actions from deeds. You get more opportunities to grab strategy cards, which give you actions. You have more actions that come from building buildings, will give you an action. Um, Completing, going, unlocking things with the deeds gets you action on the deed, and then additionally it might give you another action. You have more resources. So we have these influence tiles in the first edition. But again, they consumed resources which you had to decide: are you consuming resources due to the influence? Are you consuming resources due to the deed? Are you not consuming resources so you can score your goods and get income? Hard choices. Like I said, I'm a fan of hard choices, but now you don't really have that hard of a choice. You can do a deed, activate a tile, all in the same turn. So in terms of actions you take, don't worry, you don't want that fourth round, because you don't want the game where by round 3 you've done 90% of everything, and now you have to play a whole another round where you're all, like, what? Well, now we have to do another like 30, 20 minutes, whatever, of gameplay. But really, we've already, like, a natural arc of a game, right? Like, it ramps up and then it reaches its highest point at some point, or nears it. And at that point, you kind of want the game to end, because then you don't want to have another thing where you just kind of diminishing returns. You have too much of everything, and it just feels very weird that you're even playing anymore. So 3 is good for this one. Trust me. Like, I've played multiple times at 3 rounds. At no point was I like, oh my god, I'm not done. Like, let's go. Like, no, no, no. It's great. So that's the last thing I wanted to say about that. So if you see this later on, go ahead and check out the Game Found page. It's still going on. Don't miss out, because you're not going to get that good of a value on this game in the aftermarket. Just look at what the aftermarket on the original Rurik is. It's like double what the all-in pledge is right now. So, Fantasia's done a great job. They've won numerous awards for their art, their components, for everything. So, they're gonna hit it out of the park. And so yeah, do yourself a favor, get it while you can.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Stan. Thank
Yeah,
you
my
to all
pleasure.
the people there in the chat asking question. Also, I think the video is gonna be uploaded, so we hear you in the comments from the campaign, and yeah, take in consideration that the game is already evolving. This is not already published, and we want to hear the community and do the best for the game. So yeah, keep your comments up, and yeah, don't miss the opportunity. Bye bye, people. Bye bye, Stan. Nice to see you.
I miss you. Good to see you.
Yep, we are done.